A very good evening, everyone. Before we start off today's session, I would like to start off with this very beautiful quote, This Fine Evening, by Barbara Gittings. The struggle means more than passing laws. The struggle it really won in the hearts and the minds of the community where it really counts. This is PP Shreyas here, the founder and managing trustee of Project Bodhan. A hearty welcome to everyone watching this webinar on the LGBT plus community and their struggles during lockdown, which is being organized by Project Bodhan along with the Rotaract Club of Indira College, Rotaract International District 3131 in partnership with Elixir Foundation, Castrolex Edu Foundation, and Relief Foundation, supported by the British Deputy High Commission, Ahmedabad, in collaboration with the Rotaract clubs of New Bombay, Seaside, RID 3142, Pune Singhad Road, RID 3131, ISLO Metropolitan, RID 9110, Bombay Airport, RID 3141, Ambernath, RID 3142, Patalganga, RID 3131, on RID 3131. We are honored to have two distinguished speakers with us today. His Excellency Peter Cook, British Deputy High Commissioner of the Gujarat and Rajasthan, Indophile, born in Kolkata on Independence Day 1963. Sir has got 38 years of experience in diplomatic service. His privileged postings such as Consulate General Belgium, Deputy Consulate General Istanbul, MD of British Chamber of Commerce Qatar. Also, he has served in Denmark, Barbados, Guyana, and the United Nations in New York. Now back in India after 50 years of absence, but excited by the young, modern, dynamic society he has found. I welcome you to my session today, sir. MX Riya Sharma, a TEDx speaker, LGBTQAI plus youth activist, and the co-founder of the Jimmy Foundation. They have been working towards creating awareness about issues of gender and sexuality at various platforms through workshops, advertisements, and short films. Ria also has been a training speaker for the youth organization, the Plain Jar, for the CAASA program. Apart from that, Ria has also given on number 9 some weeks back. They were the part of the collaboration between Unikate Protection and the House on Moons, where she produced her first story, Split Ends. Ria acted for the Camco Chocolate campaign for their advertisements and was a part of the documentary film Closet, screened at the Kashish Festival L. I welcome you, Ria. Also, we are privileged to witness two members from Rotaract International District 3131 today. District General Secretary RTR Akash Chikate and District International Service Director RTR Rukdev Kantpile. I would request Ria to begin first.
Hello, everybody. I'm really honored to be a part of such a beautiful project, which actually initiates the conversation. So when we talk about the LGBT community, the basic issue that the LGBT community has today, even after Section 377 being struck down in 2018, is the acceptance that they do not get. Well, I talk from a background of privilege where I was accepted by my friends, my family, my parents. My parents are actually themselves LGBTQAI youth activists, and they are doing their bit to spread awareness about LGBT. So before I talk about the struggles that LGBT people are having in lockdown, I would like to initiate a small discussion about what exactly LGBT is. So before we move on to the struggles that they are having in times of such crisis, let's really understand what the community is all about. So I would really like you to spend your time to respond to me as I ask you the question. So when we talk about LGBT, we basically start with understanding 4 concepts, which are sex, gender, sexuality, and gender expression. So I want you to respond to this. Use the chat box to just put your answer there. Do you think that gender and sex is the same thing? Like in many forms that we fill these days, gender and sex is used interchangeably. So are they the same? Just use your chat box to respond to the question. Give yourself 10 seconds to just respond to this. Cool, perfect. So when we talk about gender and sex, I'll be very honest and I'll be very personal that gender and sex is not the same. And for major part of my life, this question really, really tormented me because I was born a female. I was born with a vagina, and later on, I started menstruating at the age of 12. So my body said that I was female, but at the same time, my soul and my idea of myself was not being a female. It was about being a gender fluid person. So you might see that I use MX before my name and they and them after my name. That's because I identify as gender fluid. So we start with the basic, we start with solving and demystifying the basic idea that gender and sex is not the same. Sex is what you're assigned at birth, what you're born as biologically, but gender is your idea about yourself, what you feel as. And when I understood about the entire difference between gender and sex, it actually transformed my life. When we talk about sexuality, sexuality is who you get basically attracted to. And your sexuality can be a spectrum like gender is. Neither gender, neither sex, neither sexuality is in binaries. We usually knew that, okay, there are only male and female at birth. Even I had that conception. Later in life, when I started reading about LGBT, I understood that there is something known as intersex variation. That actually, opened a new world for me. When we talk about gender, gender is not just woman or man. Gender is actually a spectrum, and it can be applicable for anybody. Now, that was when I understood the beauty of gender. And that actually transformed my life, and I am what I am because of the knowledge that I got when I was exploring myself. So when we talk about the struggles that LGBT people have, the first struggle that we talk about is the non-acceptance that we get. In the lockdown, I witnessed that a lot of people, a lot of LGBT people around me were not accepted in their own homes. They were not accepted by their own family, their friends, their parents, their primary caretakers, basically. I knew of stories where they were forcefully taken to godmen and forced to change their identity. We all know about conversion therapies. In India, and I think all over the world, there is something known as corrective rape, which is when a homosexual woman comes out, the family forces her to have sex with a man because they feel that they haven't experienced it. And in this lockdown, there were many stories like this, which actually overwhelmed me. When I heard these stories, I was responding to many of these stories. I was the first responder, and I could not believe my eyes. We are talking about modernism. We are talking about moving towards a future. Now, this is not the future that I'm expecting to be. This is not the future that I want the next generation to exist in. So these were stories that I experienced firsthand in lockdown. There were some people like me who are very dysphoric about their gender. Being dysphoric about the gender means that when you're assigned sex at birth, does not correspond to your idea about your gender, it becomes very stressful mentally. And a lot of times, many people might want to undergo surgery. Many people might not want to go surgery, and they will be valid with the gender identity. So focusing on the trans community, a trans community is trans individuals are those who are assigned a particular sex at birth, but the gender is not corresponding to their sex. Now, there would be some people who want to go surgery. There would be some people who do not want to go surgery, do not want to go for surgery. And for those who want to go for surgery, might also have to take certain hormones to make them feel comfortable in their own skin. In this lockdown, there were times where they did not have access to such hormones. And mentally, they faced more and more trauma because they were not feeling aligned with their own body. And here in India, there weren't many resources that they could reach out to. So there were times there when they felt more and more suffocated. On top of that, they were not supportive families. They were living in homophobic and transphobic families. So they were not much of emotional support there. I know friends who could not who could not access who did not have access to hormones, and they were off hormones for around 1 year, 1 month, 1 or 2 months. It was very, very difficult for them. Now, another community that a lot of people don't talk about in India is the Hijra community. We all have certain misconceptions about the Hijra community, right? From our childhood, we have been told that these people are wrong. In India, especially because Hijra community has a certain position because of certain religious ideas, we have certain conceptions about them. You know, we ask them to bless our children when they are born. We ask them to come in our weddings and bless us. But when it comes to supporting them and their lives, we back off. The Hijra community in India is actually very dependent on sex work, on begging, and on various forms of unconventional forms of jobs that they do. Just imagine. I want you to imagine. What would be the plight of the Hijra community in this lockdown, where they did not have access to any sort of work? We actually are very hesitant to employ them because we feel that, oh my God, they do sex work, they do begging, and we actually humiliate them on their work. We ask questions like, why don't you get a true job? Why don't you get a real job? Are we ourselves open to opening up opportunities for them? Perhaps not. So when we talk of the Hijra community in this lockdown, areas like Kamatipura, Falkland Road in Mumbai are places where there are homes where Hijra community live, and they faced a lot because a lot of people were hesitant to employ somebody for sex work. Now, first of all, sex work is real work, you know. And my second point would be that, you know, in this period, a lot of people were not open to giving them employment of any sort. There were times when COVID affected people encountered the Hijra community, and they were themselves affected with the COVID virus. But what do? They don't have any access to work, right? So I firsthand experienced this, that the Hijra community too was facing a lot. When we talk of, so when we talk of homosexual people, we actually, shifted from talking about the trans community. We talked about how there was no or less access to hormones, which made them feel very dysphoric. Then we talked about the Hijra community, a very taboo community in India, and talked about how there was very less access to work. Because even off COVID, we are not open to giving them employment. On top of that, in the COVID crisis, the only opportunity that they had was taken away. And I mean, I would be honest that many NGOs, many organizations did step forward to support them, to give them basic source of food, basic source of money. Now we move towards the homosexual community. I would like to share a story that happened, an incident that happened with me in this lockdown. That I got a sudden call from one of my co-activists, and they were like, two lesbian couples are thrown off their homes. They don't have any place to live in. They're on the road. And in this lockdown, not many people were open to help them out. Now, perhaps because they were feeling very dysphoric, and perhaps they were feeling very uncomfortable living in their homophobic homes, they opted to come out. And what happened was that they were not accepted by their homes, not accepted by their own family, their parents, thrown out of their homes. Nobody really was open to helping them out. And what do we do in such situations, right? So fortunately, somebody really kind, volunteered to host them at their home, and the case was resolved for the moment. But it actually made me think, where are we going in terms of real inclusivity? Where are we going in terms of making a future that is more accepting? COVID was a situation that came very, 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 very suddenly. It was a sudden phenomenon, and we didn't expect it. We were not prepared. Even before that, the plight of the LGBT community is poor. When we talk of acceptance, when we talk about everyday life is a fight with the society. The society that constantly targets the community because of their different identity. Some years back, we were considered a minuscule minority by the legal system. And so we are definitely slowly moving towards a better society and creating a space which is open for everybody to express themselves. Now, what I want you to take from this session would be that it's very important to educate ourselves about the lives of the LGBT people and the steps that we can take to make this society really inclusive. If we talk about the recent law that was passed, the Transgender Protection Bill that was passed in 2019, it did not give the right to transgender people to self-identify. They have to be validated by the district magistrate to be a legitimate transgender, but that's not how it works. Gender and identities, like your sexuality, like your gender expression, is very personal, and everybody should have the right to be themselves and express the way that they want to. So when we talk about the Transgender Protection Act, it did not give the right to self-identify. So we don't have a clear idea about what these identities are. When we talk about the LGBT alphabet soup, not many people know what bisexual is, what pansexual is. So the first step towards inclusivity is to really engage in such conversations and to engage ourselves into understanding what these lives are. If we don't understand what the struggles are in reality, we won't be able to have a real inclusive approach. So I would want you to do one thing. Like you would have noticed that I use the pronouns they and them. And it's very important for everybody to use their gender pronouns in their name, because it gives a sense of belongingness. It gives a sense of inclusivity. It gives a sense that we are moving towards a better future where we are accepting different identities. So I would like you all to do one thing where you would just write your name and your preferred gender pronouns. And we would do this in the next 10 seconds. So it would be great if you could use the chat box, write your name, and write your preferred gender pronouns. It takes 10 seconds to do that. So I hope that after this session, everybody is more inclusive towards the LGBT community. They are more aware about the struggles of the LGBT community, and take our own small steps into making this society a better place to live in. So from my experience and from what I said today, we understood about the struggles of the trans community, where there's non-acceptance. On top of that, they have they go through gender dysphoria, a very stressful state to live in. Where we also talked about the Hijra community, a very authentic, a very indigenous community, a community of trans women, a community of intersex people who are the part of this very authentic group. And we talked about how they were not given equal opportunity to work of COVID, and in COVID, their difficulties increased because there were not jobs where they could employ themselves. And we also talked about the non-acceptance of the homosexual community. The LGBT community is still not accepted. I belong from a very privileged background where my parents have accepted me. But I know stories where the parents themselves do not find it very difficult to accept their children. And the children themselves face a lot of trauma. So we understood about that perspective too, where still there are times where people are not accepting. And there could be times where the LGBT community might be living in homes which are homophobic, which are transphobic. So from my side, we understood about these three perspectives. And by ending this session, I would like you all to take your step forward, take a small step forward to understanding more about LGBT. I have an Instagram account where I post about my opinions about LGBT, about gender dysphoria, about gender expression, where we put forward opinions and fearless voices about voices of LGBT, and understand more and more about what this community is all about. Well, 20 minutes would be very less to understand about the entire LGBT spectrum, because it's so diverse, it's so beautiful, it's so colorful. So perhaps we could also have a session where we understand more about the LGBT community, understand more about the dynamics of different identities, and be better and more inclusive people. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Ria, for this amazing talk and providing deep insights into what is the need of the hour. And I believe this is what we can see in the audience, that they were really excited for this talk and they benefited a lot. And this would really help out the society in removing the stigma very soon. So, everyone, we all are waiting for His Excellency Peter Cook. I would request, sir, to talk about United Kingdom's perspective on today's topic and what Ria shared. Yes. Okay. Well, sir, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. I can hear
Yes.
you.
Yes. Great. Great. Thank you. So, everyone, I believe we were just going through some technical glitches, and Sir will be just joining in a moment with us. Meanwhile, I see that there many people joined out of here today evening. You people have really made it. I can see there are many Rotaractians from various districts and various clubs, and this is really great, everyone. I hope this would. I mean, all of you are benefiting out of this talk. So, as you all know, that Sir is there in the British Deputy High Commission. He will be giving us a talk right now. So, sir, we have Sir over here right now. Yes. Sir, can you hear us?
Lovely, thank you. I think the connection went a
Yes, yes,
little
yes, some net
bit
issues.
crazy.
Yes.
Yes, I can. I think there is a little connection issue, so I'm sorry about the technology. I hope you can hear
No
me okay.
problem. Yes, sir, you're good. You can continue. Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, sir. Uh, I think there is a little bit of glitches here and there, but yes, I think yes.
Thank you. I apologize. There's a delay on the line, which is making communication a little difficult. So I do apologize for that.
Not
But
at
let me
all, sir.
just say a quick few things. First of all, what an impressive speaker. Ria, thank you so much. Uh, you've given us a lot to think about. Let me continue, if I may. I wanted simply to acknowledge. Okay, this is going to be problematic. I'll keep going, and I'll just try and make my comments, and I'll gladly sit back and listen. I was fascinated to listen to Ria just now. Um, I want to say thank you to Rotaract, thank you to Shreyas, to the Elixir Foundation, to all the sponsors and partners for this. This is a fantastic opportunity to engage. Um, I'm struck by how important this subject is, and really the
Sir,
fact
sorry for interrupting.
that we
It would
do
be great if you can switch off your video and talk.
talk about it
Yes, I'm
enough.
so sorry for interrupting, sir. Yes, you could switch
And
off
so
your
this is a
video
really good
and give it.
opportunity.
Okay, I believe we are stuck with some issues. We are just going to wait for Sir to get back on track. I believe network connectivity issues cannot really help during lockdown. And yes, that's very much true. Okay, I think I would request Sir to join back again. Maybe if he's just stuck somewhere, and that would really help out. So, meanwhile, I can just see that people over here are increasing in chats, and we can see many messages, and people are very excited for Sir today, Peter Sir, to give a talk after Ria. And I think Sir is here. Yes.
Thank you. Yes, I've switched off my camera. I hope this will be easier to communicate.
Absolutely, sir. You can go ahead. This is clear.
Thank you. I'll try not to repeat too much of what I've said, but just to summarize very briefly, huge thanks to Ria for giving us a wonderful diagnosis and analysis of the situation and the problem. That was a marvelous 20 minutes, really helpful, really full of useful learning for me. Thanks to Rotaract and everyone, Shreyas, Elixir Foundation, all the sponsors and partners. That's wonderful. This is a really important moment to begin a dialogue of this fashion. We do not talk about this enough. We need to keep talking about it. It is only through dialogue, discussion, through openness, through raising awareness that we are going to achieve the change that is necessary. I was struck so much by what Ria said about, and really the fundamental point about how society is struggling with this, and how so many people are suffering from the stress and the heartache of the challenge of not being recognized and respected. For me, it boils down to a very simple principle. It is respect for the individual. I think that's the essence of liberty. It's the essence of freedom, that we should give respect to every single human being on the planet. It doesn't matter if they're tall or short, if they are have a different skin and color, if they have if they're a vegetarian, or if they're like me, that enjoys eating a little hamburger from time to time. The issues here are not about who we are and what divides us. It's about what unites us as a society. And I think we all have very similar needs in that regard. We all want to love and be loved. We all want to be able to work and to fulfill ourselves in employment. We all want to be able to have friends and family and build a community where we can feel safe and have the ability to prosper. And these are fundamental freedoms. These are fundamental issues that all of us have, that a basic human need. And so I feel very passionate about this. I've spoken on this subject quite a few times over the last year or two. Indeed, I was talking with Manvendra Singh Gohil very recently, one of the leading spokespeople for the LGBT community, and struck so much by his work and his struggle and understanding the real challenge that society presents for people from this particular community. Change is very slow. Education takes time. And so I would love to think we can achieve a change in a much quicker period, but I know that's probably unrealistic. But we must not give up. We must continue the long journey to try and achieve equality, to try and achieve understanding and respect. So many important areas. I'd like particularly to mention two that I've been particularly anxious about. Employability, employment opportunities for this community. I'm wanting to engage with anyone who can help support some programs, some projects where we can talk to employers, encourage employers to ignore the stereotypes, ignore the challenges of this, but really to understand how we should focus on skills, on talent, on the creative abilities of people. And all of the LGBTQ plus community have so many wonderful skills, wonderful talents to offer. I know in the UK, I mean, this is not just a problem for Gujarat. It's not even just a problem for India. This is a problem even in the UK, where this community is struggling to find opportunities to build a life and to make themselves prosperous. And so I'm very keen, I think, to explore how we can work more closely together with employers and try and make this a more effective solution, so that these people are included in society and are recognized for their role and their contribution. That will build self-respect. And that's a really important area of work. And I certainly want to do more in that particular field. I would also like, I think, simply to speak up for all those that are championing this cause. We need more role models. We need more leaders to come forth and to speak.
Okay, I believe we lost Sir for a minute. We just need to have Sir coming back. So yes, meanwhile, I can just, I guess we should really wait for Sir to come back. And I would request all of you to have some patience for it. Thank you so much for that. Yes. So Sir is here finally.
Let me just continue. I'm sorry, we got interrupted very briefly there. I'm just about to finish to say I'm very keen to continue this conversation, to join in other dialogues, to try and continue the conversation, so that we do not forget, we do not step back from our ambitions here. My office, the British High Commission in India, the UK government is very keen to continue its advocacy, its support for this community. We stand in solidarity with them, and we want, obviously, to participate in efforts to try and improve the determination to achieve equality. That would be what I'm most interested in. I hope today is another wonderful step along that journey. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so sorry the technology has been a challenge, but I hope we can continue the conversation.
Well, thank you so much for the talk, sir. It's absolutely fine because lockdown makes us end up in network connections here and there. But it was an amazing talk by yours, and we are privileged to have you here today. And that's something which is really happy for me and all the people present in the studio today. So now we move on to the question and answer session. I request both the speakers to answer the questions of our audience who are waiting eagerly with so many enthusiastic answers and questions. So I request everyone, if you have any questions to Peter, sir, and Ria, you can post your questions on the screen, and we would surely, sir and Ria would surely be happy to answer it out. So we're just going to wait for some time for people to come up with questions.
I think this is the opportunity, this is the honor and opportunity to, educate ourselves. So I really hope that, and I really, I'm keen to answering any questions. And Peter sir is always there. So, I mean, use this opportunity to demystify any ideas that you might have. And I feel that, just go ahead with asking any question that you might have.
So I think I'll volunteer myself in asking you a question, Ria, and then I will surely move on to Sir. I think that would really help people to come up with questions. So as you said,
Yeah.
today the word gender and sex has a lot of difference, right? So saying that it is being taught in most of the universities, colleges, and workshops, right? But if you see in the most parts of the India, it is just a part of the country that is getting educated. So there's half of the population who are really not into this sex education, and which is very, very important in the country. So what would you say, and what do you think is more ideal for this?
Absolutely. So, I mean, Shreyas, when we talk about these identities like gender and sex, a person gets the idea of gender quite early in life. So, if I talk about my story, I knew that I was gender fluid at the age of around 4 to 5. So, I mean, we understand the importance of sex ed because it would help people to understand themselves. I took around 10 years to understand myself and my sexuality and my gender. And it was a very difficult struggle. And because I didn't have any media representation, I didn't have any queer idols to look up to. It was very hard for me to relate to anybody. So when we talk about sex education, it is very, very important to conduct it everywhere in our country. Now, when we talk about these concepts like gender, sex, sexuality, let's understand that these are not urban concepts. You know, we blame the West. It has not come from the West. It's an identity that's all around the globe. So what we need to understand is that talking about talking about say menstruation, talking about same sex, safe sex, talking about gender identities is as important as teaching a person about bad touch and good touch. So let's not limit this education to just the privileged, just the just the first tier cities. Let's move towards a better society where we actually go to the roots and work on the ground level. So I feel that this is very, very important. Sex ed and talking about gender, sex, sexuality is very, very important, and it should actually spread across the globe. And we should not include the rural population too. I feel that it's a need of
We have a question on the screen right now. Uh, I can read it out for you if you want. Why still the LGBT community people are still considered as a chaos in India? As a responsible student, what could we do for the upliftment?
So I'll tell you what. I understood about I accepted my sexuality and my gender just some years back, around 4 years back, when I started activism. And before that, I had my own misconceptions about LGBT. I would be very honest that I myself was homophobic. Why? Because we live in a society that has ingrained ideas about different identities, and we have not been trained uh, into empathy, into respecting people with different identities. Now we talk about homosexuality, we talk about trans rights. We discriminate people on the basis of their disability. We discriminate people on the basis of their caste, about their class, religion. We need to understand the concept of respect and empathy. Like Sir said, that it's about individuality and respecting a person's individuality. So when we talk about LGBT, we have ingrained ideas about homosexuality, about transsexuality, you know, about transgenders, about the Hijra community. So as a student, what we could do is to engage in discussions, is to be open about talking about such topics. So as a student, I feel that we could initiate such conversations. We could reach out to people, talk about them, talk about the LGBT community with them. If we are ourselves confused about certain themes, we could simply just reach out to people and ask them rather than assume. So I think that engaging in discussions is really important in today's world. So I hope I answered that question.
I think that would have really answered the person's question. So here's something which I don't have a question to sir, but I would like to, sir, if you're there, it's a very big thing that you're here today for us, and I would request everyone over here to make use of this opportunity to ask a question to sir. If you have anything, please do that because we don't get sir every time over here. He won't come and do this for us, right? This is a one-time opportunity and a very golden opportunity to interact with sir wherever you are. So, sir, I have a small question for you. So, actually, we are saying that today, UK, I mean the United Kingdom and the British Deputy High Commissioner beautiful initiatives, and many projects. Could you please emphasize a little about it on how you're planning to do it across the entire country for India using the vision of UK and yours towards the youth, and what do you think is really, really important for such communities? Okay, I believe we're having Sir here. I think maybe we have. Okay, we're just going to wait for him to join back. Maybe he might have lost connection. That's something which we are waiting for. Meanwhile, everyone, I request you all to post questions because we have very less time over here. And please do keep on posting the questions because you cannot ask again. That's something which I personally feel. And okay. Well, Ria, do you have something to say a little about what do you think is? I have a small question for you again. So, I have, as a youth, okay, you might have seen many people like you, right, who are into this and are running different NGOs. At the same time, they face the same trauma in the society, what really they undergo. So, how do they balance out things when they're working and uh, doing this? So, I mean, you need to balance both the sides of the coin, the heads and the tails. So, can you please share your views on that?
So I feel that once you start becoming a change maker, the journey never stops. And so being focused in your goal is very important. So I feel that the first tip that I actually always give is that always keep the cause much above than you. There are times where we might get overwhelmed with the change that we are bringing in the society. But one thing that we need to understand is the cause is always bigger than yourself. As a youth activist, it can sometimes get very overwhelming, very exciting to see the kind of change that you're bringing in people's life. But one thing that we need to understand is that we are actually moving towards a better society in a vision that we are going to create a change. So the way that you could manage it to is to first know that the cause is bigger than you, so that you'll constantly strive to bring and change. And then you might have parallel lives. Know that uh, you might be in college, you might be in school, and still be youth activists, still be activists who are bringing change, who are changing lives. Know that at every step of life you're learning. So if you are in your college, in your school, constantly gain that skill that would be useful for you in future. So know that in bringing about the change, it's very important that you constantly acquire skills. So what I actually do is to read tons of books, about LGBT empowerment, about Dalit rights, because I'm really interested in it. I read about psychology, and I'm constantly trying to gain the skills that would be important for me to actually bring about a change. So I feel that as a student, make sure that your cause is always bigger than you, and know that you need to constantly gain your skills to be a better change maker. Yeah, I feel that that would be very useful for the youth, the future of our country.
Absolutely, Ria. I think that is very important. I'd request people present in the studio to ask some questions to Ria. So, can we have Amisha or Rashi asking few questions?
Absolutely. Feel free to ask me anything. This is the opportunity that we can just discuss and demystify a lot of things.
Yes. Okay.
And those who might be, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we have a question here on screen. I've
Absolutely.
requested to post it. So, Ria, do you think educating the children from a younger age about sex education will help them to recognize themselves and make them more comfortable?
Absolutely. So, Sapna, this is a very interesting question Because a lot of people say that if we start educating people about sex, if we start educating people about gender, we would be changing their mindsets and stuff like that. There are controversies around that. Should we start sex ed at an earlier age or not? The point is, let's start with teaching them basic idea of gender, sex, and about different identities. Now, what happens is that when a child is in their school, they are exploring their sexuality, and at the same time, if they are vocal about it, they are abused, they are bullied, which is so bad, and it can have tremendous effect on the mental health. So I feel that at earlier ages, let's start with teaching them what gender is, right? Let's teach them what sex is. Now we have tabooed ideas like sex. We have tabooed ideas like genitals. Now that is also the reason that if a child is going through child sexual abuse, they are not able to vocalize it. They are not able to tell that they are going through something like that. So let's teach them properly what sex is. Let's teach them properly what genitals stand for. Let's teach them what gender is. On top of that, what's really important is to teach them what empathy is, what respect is, so that when they reach a stage where they are encountering diversity, they're empathetic about it. Now, I'll add one more very interesting thing that I propagate about is to teaching boys about menstruation. And it's actually related to gender sexuality. I'll tell you why. Because a lot of adolescent boys do not know what menstruation is until they perhaps get into a relationship with a woman. And the same goes with girls. Girls don't know what boys go through in their puberty. And so we have these very tabooed ideas of sex, of gender, of relationships, right? If we know what the other person goes through, if we know the struggles and life of different people, then we at least will be empathetic towards their identities. So I feel that let's start with educating children about basics of gender, sex, sexuality, and perhaps then understanding and then making them understand the dynamic of sexuality, perhaps. Because I think, yes, I understand that sexuality is something that is very very, very deep, and perhaps children might have that sense of maturity in them to really understand it. But we definitely can start with teaching them basic respect, basic sex ed, basic gender, and then moving on to sexuality in later stages of their schooling.
I believe, yes, that's something which you really give. But yes, everyone, I just had a short call right now, and I believe the British Deputy High Commissioner, sir, that is Peter, sir, is facing some network issues, and we will be having him shortly here. And that is what I really pray for, that we can have him. But meanwhile, I request you all. I can see that all of you are not enthusiastic. See, this it's a very deep topic, everyone. You can ask many questions, and you can explore a lot, because if I tell you about Ria, right, I've watched few of her TEDx videos. To be honest, Ria, you have given wonderful talks in the among the youth, and we can really understand what you're trying to pass on to the society. But what matters is really is what you give a talk doesn't matter. People should follow it, and that is our duty to do that, because there is no one to control us, or neither we can be controlled, or neither we control us, right? These three are something which are negative principles which we never follow. What matters is we should take up the responsibility as mature citizens of this country in finding
Yeah.
out what's right for the society, because we all are currently living in the 21st century. And in 21st century, it is not like earlier what it was during our ancestors' time. Things have changed. Many things have changed. Society is changing. People are progressing. When you say that a mobile, from a Nokia phone to a smartphone to an iPhone you're using today, and to a touchpad you're using, then why can't we say that thoughts in people cannot progress? Is it so this one that we cannot really take that small effort? Is there any price for it that we have to pay 2-3 crores for it, and we need to really make that build upon over it? I don't think so, because what matters is It's just that a change within us, and change begins when we start getting educated and we educate millions. So what are we doing? We are really helping out the community. We are really helping out the society. We are helping out people who are victims of this and giving them a new life. Am I right? And by doing this, we can actually ensure that next 10 years, 20 years, we'll ensure a bright future. Like, I mean, what Ria is doing as a youth today, I would say next 20 years, she'll bring about a clearly a progress over here. The point can be really made. And I think everyone should respect the fact that what she's really doing right now in Jimmy Foundation. So Jimmy Foundation is something which is really important. Could you please tell what do you do and what exactly do you work on?
Absolutely. So Jimmy Foundation is a very newborn organization. It was started by my family and Harish Iyer, who is an equal right activist and who has been in the activism industry for a pretty long time. And our aim is to basically educate people about certain ideas which we don't talk about, and also to create listeners, because we understand that, as Shreyas you said something which I actually wanted to point out, is that it can be very difficult for people to understand these concepts. I don't disagree with that. It can be very, very hard, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all, because we have created a society where we don't talk about certain ideas. And what we can definitely do is to be open to such ideas, reaching out to right people and educating ourselves with the right kind of information, right? So Jimmy Foundation and I as an individual aim to train people who can be good listeners, who can be good trainers, who have the right knowledge, who can reach out to people and educate them about it. Now, to all the people who are right here, I would appreciate you and kudos to you, because you took that initiative to sit all through this session and understand about LGBT. Now, this is the first step. This is the first step towards understanding what the LGBT people are. So, I mean, the Jimmy Foundation is always open, and my personal account @MXRiaCrescendo is always right there for you to educate about the LGBT community. So basically, yes, Jimmy Foundation is an organization that aims to create awareness and aims to create empathy. So for
Very
people
much.
who, yeah. So I mean, if I would end it with this, if people were a bit hesitant to ask me or sir about, say, LGBT, their struggles about their struggles with their identities, feel free to reach out to me on my social media accounts, on Jimmy's social media accounts. And you can you can talk to me about anything. You can clear your ideas about LGBT, and any discussion that you might want to have, just reach out to me, and I'm always available to have a quick talk about LGBT.
So we have a
Yes,
next question. There are
yes.
no syllabus in our curriculum about this sex education, proper curriculum I'm talking about, what our question is being stated by one of our audience. Even in my senior secondary education, our teachers used to skip the reproduction topic. They will taught only after separating boys and girls. Our society is this much fear of teaching these in common. How come we can overcome this? So I hope you understood. I'm just rephrasing that
Absolutely.
today, that if sex education is being taught, it is not really being given with practical experience to someone, and also the reproduction topic is not being given into deep insights. So what do you think, should the education system change, or what should we really do, Ria?
So, Shweta, this is a very interesting question again, because I remember that even when I was schooling, when we were there was this session where where trainers taught us about menstruation, and boys were taken to the other class. I think 8th standard May, there was this one chapter about reproduction, and it was skipped. Why? Because of the words penis and vagina, breasts, and say testicles. Why do we fear from saying these words? These are just biological phenomena, biological body parts. It's absolutely normal, and this is the reason where, my God, yes. So this is the reason why we have tabooed all this, and a lot of people go through a lot of trauma because we don't talk about such ideas. So, as you know, my recommendation to the education system, to the makers of the education system and future change makers, is to not fear to tackle these theories, to tackle these chapters. Now, as a youth activist, I myself have initiated to talk about these theories in schools and colleges. Jimmy Foundation and I personally have trained many teachers to to tackle such topics. A lot of times, even teachers feel very uncomfortable when they have to talk about gender, sex, sexuality. Now, I think that teachers' responsibility should be to impart knowledge, not just not just what is written in the books, but also practical knowledge. So I feel that if we are to create a real change in the schooling system, in the education system, I feel that it's very, very important that we train teachers to be comfortable with such concepts, because they come from a different generation. And so they might also take time to be comfortable in their own skin, be comfortable in tackling such chapters. So I mean, you can reach out to us if you have any contacts with teachers, and we would help them to understand these concepts and the importance of these concepts. So I think that what we can do is to precisely answer the question, is to help teachers. Now it's all about helping each other to understand, helping teachers to openly tackling these theories is, and to openly understanding these chapters, and to feel comfortable when they are to educate others about it.
True, very much, Riya. Matlab, see everyone, we are just a click away. Today's social media sticks us all together. Say
Absolutely.
that lockdown, we are in Instagram, we are in today's platform, which is StreamYard, we are in YouTube, we are in everything, right? We
Absolutely.
just need to give a text. So Riya is also on Instagram. You have a Jimmy Foundation page and Ria's Instagram page. Just a click away, guys. You just need to give a tap saying that Ria, this is what I'm really going through. This is the clap that she really looks into sorting down your problem and what you're facing. I mean, this is the way we can really connect among people, and things can be sorted down very easily, to be very, very honest to all of you. So I think Sir couldn't join with us today for the final part, and I also wanted to ask him a question which I was eager about it. Maybe all of us are feeling bad about it, but yes, at least Sir came for some time and gave a special talk,
Absolutely.
is something which is a honor for us. So yes, we'll be moving on now since it is the session has ended. And if you have any questions later, you can forward it to us on the any of our social media pages for today's
Absolutely.
event to either of the organizations. And please do watch the recorded Facebook Live and YouTube Live. And yes, we will proceed towards the felicitation and vote of thanks. And Atia Rashi, I request you to take it up. Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Rashi Rajput. Hello, I'm Rashi Rajput, International Service Director of Rotary Club of Indira College, RDI 3131. Now we would like to move on ahead with the felicitation. Thank you so much, MX Riya Sharma, for spending your valuable time with us and sharing such informative session with us. We would like to felicitate you virtually. Thank you so much, His Excellency Peter Cook, for spending your valuable time with us and sharing such valuable information with us. We would like to felicitate you virtually.
I request Rashi to give the vote of thanks so that we can conclude over the session.
Yeah. So thank you so much for everyone joining us. It was a lovely session, Ria. I really loved it. I really want to be in contact with you. Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
It was definitely an honor to be here, to be with you all who are really, passionate about bringing about a change. And I hope that we are able to take this collaboration forward, where we can
Yeah.
actually create a sensitization session where we actually talk about what LGBT actually is. Because in today's world, honestly, Rashi, Shreyash, everybody here, not many people know what LGBT is. Now we are talking about a a topic that's much ahead, which is LGBT's struggle in lockdown, which is a very ambitious topic. Because the first step is to actually make people understand what LGBT is firsthand, and then to talk about what their struggles are. So I hope that in future we are able to collaborate and talk more about it and take a much longer session. Thank you so much for inviting me and considering me for this session. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining, and to all the
Thank
virtual audience present on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.